Hi. Today I'd like us to just share together from just some thoughts that have impacted me on a picture of forgiveness and grace. And we read a story from Second Samuel chapter 19 from verse 15 to 23. And I read, "So the king started back to Jerusalem. And when he arrived at the Jordan River, the people of Judah came to Gilgal to meet him and escort him across the river. Shimei, son of Gerar, the man from Bahurim in Benjamin, hurried across with the men of Judah to welcome the king. 1,000 other men from the tribe of Benjamin were with him, including Ziba, the chief steward of Saul's house, and Ziba's 15 sons and 20 servants. They rushed down to the Jordan to meet the king. They crossed the shallows of the Jordan to bring the king's household across the river, helping him in every way they could. As the king was about to cross the river, Shimei fell down before him. 'My lord the king, please forgive me,' he pleaded. 'Forget the terrible thing your servant did when you left Jerusalem. May the king put it out of his mind. I know how much I sinned. That is why I have come here today, the very first person in all Israel to greet my lord the king.' Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said, 'Shimei should die, for he cursed the Lord's anointed king.' 'Who asked you for your opinion, you sons of Zeruiah?' David exclaimed. 'Why have you become my adversary today? This is not a day of execution, but for celebration. Today I am once again the king of Israel.' Then turning to Shimei, David vowed, 'Your life will be spared.'" We are examining the beautiful picture of forgiveness and grace from the life of King David. And before we do this, could we ponder on some questions? Has someone ever wronged you, betrayed you, greatly disappointed you, abused you, demeaned you, slandered you, belittled you with sarcasm or reckless words, laced with malicious intent to wreck your personhood? How did it feel to experience such vitriol poured on you? If you're like me, such treatment would ignite a passion for justice or even revenge that ensures that the person is taught a lesson they will never forget. Well, King David shows us another way. So let's dive in. Now we are seeing King David after being betrayed by his son and his kingship usurped by Absalom, his son. He left due to that rebellion. And as he was fleeing from Jerusalem, Shimei met the king and the entourage that he had and started pelting the king with stones and throwing curses on him because he had killed Saul's family, and he kept on throwing curses and stones. Abishai at this point was so frustrated, and he asked the king if he could deal with Shimei and cut him down. But the king refused and entrusted his case to the Lord. So here we see it didn't take long for David to gain victory over his son. And then here we are encountering him coming back. And we are beginning, we see the contentious repentance of Shimei. And seeing a situation where a public wrong requires a public reckoning. So King David is returning. Shimei has come with the Benjamites who are coming to welcome the king back, and he falls to the ground. He realizes how much is in grave danger. And he falls to the ground to ask for forgiveness. And we see a situation where this act of him prostrating, falling to the ground with his face to the ground, pleading for his life, pleading for the king to forgive him. What he had done amounted to treason. And you see, the justice requirement for Shimei, according to Abishai, was for Shimei to be executed for having the audacity to curse the one who was anointed and set apart for God's use as the king of Israel. So Abishai insists on Shimei being executed. My difficulty with this text is that Shimei, the way he came out, realizing that David had had victory over his son, you wonder whether his repentance was a genuine repentance or fueled out of fear. Whatever the case, Shimei is here and he has come out to plead for his life. In our life today, wounds, from offense call us many times to want justice for our lives. Some of us have endured wounds from sexual abuse, wounds from deception and fraud and neglect. Maybe somebody has conned you. Some have endured wounds from injustice and prejudice. Some have endured wounds from just people who betrayed the trust that was entrusted to them. Whatever the case, many times when somebody wrongs us, our natural response is to want justice, even today. So I identify with Abishai as he prosecutes Shimei. But we see something else. God's grace through the heart of David, David forgives Shimei and lets him go. In fact, he angrily reacts to the sons of Zeruiah or to Abishai for becoming an adversary to David, standing in opposition to David in prosecuting Shimei, usurping the role of a king, and he goes on to execute judgment. David is upset with the sons of Zeruiah. But then he turns to Shimei and offers forgiveness and grace. A man who had pelted him with stones and cursed him now stands forgiven. David represents us with a template for God's forgiveness and grace, even towards us. One cannot help but marvel as he embodies God's very qualities in his dealings with us. Forgiveness and grace given by God and others, those we have wronged or those who have wronged us, defy justice. When justice demands that whoever has wronged us pays for what they have done. But unlike Abishai and Joab, who was the one who executed Absalom, who are vindictive, insecure, and must eliminate their enemies to secure their positions, King David comes through as a secure. In fact, that he's so secure in the fact that God restored him to rule and he does not need to eliminate his enemies. Therefore, David forgives Shimei. The call to forgive and offer grace still stands today. We learn how to forgive and be gracious to others who have wounded us. Forgiveness is a hard thing. To let somebody go for the things they have done, it's a difficult thing. However, God has given us His Spirit who enables us to work through the difficulties of some of the experiences we go through so that we can do what is right and what pleases Him. And forgiveness is what is right and what pleases Him when others have offended. but more so going the extra mile even to offer grace. Shimei received his life back. He wasn't even punished for what he had done. We learn to humble ourselves and seek forgiveness even from others as we quickly settle matters with others. Forgiveness frees the offended from grudges, anger, and resentment towards the offenders. When we forgive, our hearts are set free. Forgiveness is not easy. It's a difficult path that holds benefit both for the offender and for the offended. It frees the offended from holding grudges, anger, resentment, and bitterness, emotions that are destructive elements to our mental health and well-being. It also frees the offender from condemnation, guilt, and shame, knowing that they stand forgiveness. God is at work even today, enabling us to walk in the power of His forgiveness, but also in the ability to forgive others. One of the biggest takeouts of this passage is that forgiveness is the way to go when one is wronged. A few things observed: when it becomes apparent to someone that they have offended another, from Shimei's story, let's take responsibility to seek that other person out and ask for forgiveness as Shimei did. As one asks for forgiveness, it must be heartfelt and expressed with humility and respect for the person they have wronged. We see this in Shimei's action and words as he prostrates himself before the king. And lastly, when offering forgiveness, it is usually not an easy thing to do. Still, it is the right thing to do. And it demonstrates love, mercy, and brings healing and paves the way for reconciliation and restoration. God help us to walk this path of forgiveness and grace, because it reflects the heart of God. God bless you.